Thanks to Jaybird for sponsoring a portion of this video.
Good morning, everyone.
I searched every single frame of Google I/O to find a hint, a glimmer, a shining through the sleeve of new hardware coming from Google. And well, this time they kept it under wraps. There's a lot we know about the Pixel 6 that's coming through software announcements and leaks. So friend of the channel, John Prosser, released renders a few months ago of the Pixel 6 looking very un-Pixel-like. Now what you don't know, and that which John gave me permission to talk about, is that those renders were based on actual images of the Pixel 6 that he had, and didn't release those actual images to protect his source. He did, however, send me those original pictures. So these eyes, outside of Google, are some of the few that have actually seen what the Pixel 6 actually looks like. And damn, that looks good. Un-Pixel-like, unlike anything else Google has ever tried before, and it appears that this might actually be the phone or phones that brings Google back to the game, and I am here for it. All right, so this phone, much like every other Pixel that has been released in the past, obviously been super heavily leaked, not just from John, but from others as well. And we speculated about the unicorn that may or may not come. The Pixel Fold, got a whole video up on that guy. But I wanted to run down some of the more possible outcomes for this year's Pixel lineup. So here's everything you can expect from the Pixel 6, and no longer XL, but the Pixel 6 Pro. All right, so these are like as close to confirmed as things can get. And with Google, like they've done in years past, they could just drop a tweet that's like, here you go, here's a phone that's coming out. They've done that before. But I trust John, and I trust his sources. So here's what we should be looking at when the Pixel 6 comes. So, future John here. Things have changed since I filmed that video. John Prosser gave us specs for the Pixel 6. So let me tell you what you can expect. We finally have actual new camera hardware. Wide angle, 50 megapixel, ultra wide, 12 megapixel, so only 2 on the back of the 6. The front camera on the 6 is 8 megapixel, battery, 4,614 milliamp hours, processor is Google made. So think Apple making their own silicon. I expect this thing to absolutely fly, to haul, and to benchmark with the best of the flagship phones. 8 gigabytes of RAM, would have liked a little more on that standpoint, but when you have a company that's making their hardware and software, RAM becomes much less of a concern. Storage, 128 or 256, all built in, not expandable. And of course, Android 12. And let's talk Big Daddy, the king, Google Pixel 6 Pro. 6.7-inch display, a plastic OLED display. So generally considered, I guess, older tech. They were in phones like the LG G Flex and the Pixel 2 XL. Generally, it's been used for phones that don't have high refresh rates, usually AMOLEDs for higher refresh rates, but I assume at least that they should have 90 hertz, but that is a question mark and something to watch. Camera setup. All right, 50 megapixel wide, so same. 48 megapixel telephoto, that's new and that's nice, plus a 12 megapixel ultra wide, so 3 cameras on the back. Front camera gets up to 12 megapixel. Battery, a pretty nice 5,000 milliamp hours. Processor also Google, so again, this thing should be just a beast. 12 gigabytes of RAM, which I think is really the sweet spot. 128, 56, or 512, and of course, Android 12. So, Pixel 6. I'm like get in my pocket, get in my hand. Give me a Pixel watch and a new Pixel phone, and I think I would pretty happily toss my iPhone aside for a little while and probably go back and switch back and forth again, because that's who I am as a person. Other rumors that kind of been circulating out is a new Pixel stand. So after Android 12 Beta 2 came out, it was kind of discovered in the code there that Google is working on a new stand with fans, which suggests it's going to be for fast charging. Things we've seen from other manufacturers, I think obviously OnePlus and their 50-watt warp charger, which is awesome and amazing. As somebody who uses that charger regularly, it is insane how fast that can charge a phone. Now the fans in that do make it sound like a fighter jet taking off, but I will gladly sacrifice some noise pollution for a phone that can go from 0 to 100 in like 25 to 30 minutes wirelessly is awesome. So I'm here for it. And again, with Google making the hardware and the software, I trust it to not blow up my phone. So camera's obviously the big story. Look at the design of this phone. They are making the camera front and center here. So the good news is that Google appears to be done with the debate of whether or not people just want a wide angle, people just want a telephoto. And for the first time in many, many years, we're actually going to get legitimately new camera hardware and a Pixel phone, which is again, probably why I am so excited. So the regular 6 will have a wide and ultra wide. I'm sure they'll be absolutely amazing. Will not have the periscope zoom like the Pro will have. So think of periscope zoom as like Samsung super zoom. You can take pictures of the moon when you do reviews, which is awesome, but outside of that, I think it's of not huge utility to have that much zoom. What is awesome though, is when you're not using that 100 times, you're using like 5 or 10 times normal people zoom, things tend to look really awesome. And I think with Google's just asininely good software, I expect this camera setup to be baller and awesome. I wish that some sort of zoom would make its way to the regular Pixel 6. Maybe there'll be some sort of digital zoom that Google will do, but honestly, when it comes to cameras, I trust Google to do whatever they're gonna do. Their cameras are always absolutely amazing, despite using really old camera hardware. You take new camera hardware coming to the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro, I think it's just gonna be awesome. And maybe I'm fanboying out, maybe I'm a stan for Google hardware, but I can't wait for it. Whatever they do, it's probably gonna blow my mind with some crazy on-device machine learning that does new things that I've never seen before in a camera. So I'm stop here for a second to thank this video's sponsor, Jaybird and their Vista 2. They sent me a bunch of talking points in the notes to talk about, and I will, but I wanna start with, these are legitimately the headphones that I use when I work out, and the headphones that my wife uses when we work out. And I have access to every other pair of headphones to try. The active noise canceling in these things are so good, in fact, that my wife can be on the Peloton and myself and the kids can sort of run by her to ask her questions and she can't hear us, or at least she pretends to not hear us. So Jaybird says they're earth-proof. They're IP68, so if you sweat a lot, you're pretty good. They also say they're crush-proof and drop-proof. So you drop them, you step on them, whatever, they should be fine. There's also a like Find My Buds type feature, so you can use the app to find your headphones if you lost them or left them somewhere. And obviously it'll work with iOS or Android. If you use the code JOHN for a limited time, you'll get 10% off. I'll put a link to them down below. Again, there's a bunch of stuff I could talk about with these, but these are legitimately what I use, what I choose to use. And if you work out or headphones don't fit in your ear very well, you should definitely check out the Jaybird Vista 2s. So release date, this should be no surprise, late September, October timeframe. Generally just in time for the holidays, and does kind of follow the historical launch time frame for most Pixel phones, except for the insanely delayed Pixel 5. So we should also see, obviously, Android 12 probably make its official debut, the release on the new Pixel 6. So there's a lot in Android 12. Google, I think, made this a huge update. Other things, other small bits about the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. In-display fingerprint reader, which will be a nice addition to the phones. High refresh rates. We don't know if it'll be 120 or stay at 90, but higher than 60 at least. And there's been some debate between sort of OnLeaks and Jon Prosser if there's going to be a chin on the Pixel 6. And again, having actually seen the physical pictures of the 6 and 6 Pro, I went back and looked, those did not have a chin. So we should have a pretty close to sort of full glass to glass, and then there'll be a hole punch in the middle for the front facing camera. All right, so on the software side, obviously Android 12 is gonna be there. There's a bunch of awesome things coming to Android 12. This is a really big feature update for Google. They tend to alternate years where it's more of bug fixes and then sort of big giant features. But aside from UI overhaul, there's a lot here. So double tap on the back. That's something that Apple has sort of with accessibility, where you can double tap the back and you can make things happen. You can launch apps, take screenshots, notifications, whatever you want to do. It's like having another button on the phone that you can customize. I love it. It did trigger a ton by accident on Apple, so I had to turn it off. Hopefully Google fixes those issues. Like I just hold the phone, it would take a screenshot. But I imagine there's been some time that has passed and Google will not have those issues. Another thing I'm pretty pumped about for Android 12 though, is a new widget. It's a conversations widget, which sounds not that exciting, but hear me out. It actually will tap into really any ongoing message from different messaging applications, showing you the latest message in the chat, which is awesome. So you can have one widget for all of your chats and you can reply directly from that widget. So claps to that. Google Assistant also can now launch the power menu. It can't fully turn off your phone with your voice, but it can launch it, so you can actually have it pull up and then you can tap whatever you want. So Material You Design, aside from having, I think, a ridiculous name, does look awesome. A fully revamped UI experience tailored to kind of your tastes. It'll automatically pick a color palette adapting to your wallpaper. It's literally just more uniquely designed for you with interactive widgets, animations throughout the whole operating system. It looks really good. It's a visual change for Google. There's more emphasis on privacy as well in the background. And I think if you've been waiting to jump in to Android, and maybe you're with Samsung or other manufacturers that are perhaps slower with updates, you might want to consider the Pixel 6 to at least know you're going to get the latest software from Google. So aside from the Pixel 6 that's coming, which sounds awesome, Google's not done making all of these pickles. I know I said pickles. Also rumored Pixel 5a and 5G rumors. So the 5a should be pretty much identical to the Pixel 4a, what they did there, just different specs inside. 6.2-inch OLED FHD display, same cameras as the Pixel 5, so that's a 12.2 megapixel main wide shooter, then a 16 megapixel ultra wide, headphone jack, USB-C, rear fingerprint scanner. Again, stick to the mid-range Qualcomm processors in there. Perhaps the Snapdragon 768G, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 128 gigabytes of storage. Probably launched later this year, perhaps the same time frame as the Pixel 6 line. When showing advancements of what Google could do with HDR Plus on the Pixel 5 and Pixel 4a, Google shared an image gallery. And if you inspect the EXIF data from those photos, one of them was reportedly taken with the Pixel 5a, which you can see right here. So what looks like an innocuous city with taxi cabs and cloudy skies, if you zoom in, you can start to see really good detail in there. You can see the way the clouds are represented. Google's done a really nice job with HDR in the past, and I would assume that's probably pre-production hardware of the 5a that took that shot. But obviously, you don't have to be a genius to know the Pixel software and cameras is a very, very, very bright future. And if the 5a can get pictures that look like that, I am stoked for the Pixel 6. There's a lot of other Google stuff coming here that we heard about from I/O. So Wear OS. So hardware was not confirmed with Google I/O, but they did make a point to acknowledge they're working with Samsung to improve Wear OS. They must have dropped just a bag of cash on Samsung to sort of get them to abandon Tizen. We don't know if they're going to sort of merge Wear and Tizen to create a new watch OS. Obviously, it's going to be called Android Wear. What's going to happen? We've seen sort of some general sketches come out of round watches, so I expect to see actual launch of a Pixel watch, which should look absolutely amazing. They also talked about something called Project Starline, which did not get as much attention as it deserves. So with improved cameras and AI on this Pixel 6, we might see a beta version of Project Starline make its way to mobile phones. So essentially imagine using Google VR or old school cardboard to actually see and interact with the person you are video chatting with, like you are actually in the same room with them, like turning and looking at them. It's a more immersive way of video chatting, simulating someone actually sitting in front of you. So Google's updating Meet to integrate with docs and slides have actually already been rolling out, but it looks like Google is trying to put an increased focus on collaboration and community inside their ecosystem. That makes sense, right? So the Google Pixel 6 is launching into a lineup of other hardware, things like the rumored Pixel Watch and revamped Nest, Stadia, Chromecast, all can mean that Google Meet integration for your TV or gaming with friends, really across the country or the world, or sitting and watching Netflix together and looking and feeling like someone to sit next to you on the couch, could be something that happens in the very near future. So listen, most of this is speculation. And as somebody who legitimately loves the Pixel line, but has also been very critical of it in the past because I want it to be great. It's like a child. I know how good you can be and I want to encourage it. I have renewed expectations and giant smiles for the Pixel 6. Maybe it's again because I've seen the phone, I know what it looks like. And for everybody that's been clamoring for a new design from Google, for them to finally make this rumored Ultra Pixel, the 6 Pro might actually be it. New camera hardware, new software, new design. It all looks to be an amazing recipe that Google has mixed up to make just a kick-ass looking Pixel cake. And for a weird analogy, I can't wait to eat it.